Hi everybody and welcome to Weekend Gameplan with Marcus Hersh. I'm Dan Illman alongside DRF handicapper and analyst Marcus Hersh. 3 stakes races for 3-year-olds on tap this week, Marcus. Let's kick things off at Gulfstream with the one turf race that we're going to analyze. That's the Kitten's Joy, a grade 3, 100 grander. We're going about 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Morning line favorites the 2, Irish Mias, stakes winner at Laurel earlier this year, coming into this race off a Big Fig. That Big Fig kind of an outlier on his form.
Yeah, I definitely had that same response, but I kind of half believe it. I think he did move up. He ran a pretty nice race. The horse that won is in the Mucho Macho Man that we'll be talking about later. But funny you should mention the morning line for this race because it makes 0 sense to me. I don't know how you come to Get Smokin' at 5-1. Like the idea that he's going to be a shorter price than Summer to Remember at 6-1 is preposterous to me. Now, the last time I knocked a line at Gulfstream, I think the line maker was more right than I was. But I'm sticking to my guns with this one and saying that this line is not good. I mean, 4-1 and yesterday once more. I don't think that seems reasonable. So the way I think the prices are going to be, Irish Mias is going to be the favorite, and then Summer to Remember will probably be the second choice.
I tend to agree. Third choice, I think, will be Bless the Kitten for the Maker Bar, stepping up off the maiden win. Let's watch Summer to Remember's most recent performance. This horse was up on the pace throughout, battling with this horse on the outside. I like the way he got away from this horse at the end.
Oh, yeah. Look at him. I mean, he's turned into a gorilla. I mean, if you watch his race from Saratoga, which was decent, and he did get stopped just a little bit as the winner, who's a nice horse, Decorated Invader. As he was making his move, he was able to hold this horse in. He didn't get a clear run too late. But I'm just talking about like physically. I mean, I don't know what happened to him to cause the delay in his return, but he seems to have grown up immensely. And that's one of those races to me where, you know, like he's stuck inside. The jock just held his position. He didn't want the other horse to come across on him. So he just let him stay in that spot and then asked him for 1/8 of a mile. I mean, to me, it's a way better. He's way better than the margin of victory. I think he just toyed with that field. I think that I don't know that this is like some superstar, but I do think he has considerably more upside than Irish Mias, who granted is okay and ran well last time and merits attention. But I just think at a higher price, he's the one I would want to play in this race.
And I think a good trip is coming. They can utilize this horse, Summer to Remember's speed from the outside and get a nice tracking spot, either sitting second or third off of Get Smokin', who's going to show speed, and maybe Island Commish will show a little bit of speed as well.
I mean, I liked Get Smokin' last time. He was abysmal. Maybe, I mean, I do. It's encouraging they're coming right back in another stakes race. They have other options, but he was. I mean, maybe it was something very particular, but I thought he was going to run well last time, and he didn't show anything at all. So that makes me question what I thought I saw in his previous race. So, I mean, I've got a half an eye out on him as maybe some price or exotic spotter, but the Pletcher horse that I picked, I do think, I think he's better than the Fig. I think he's better than the margin of victory, and I think he's good enough to win this race. Not at a great price, but at just a touch of value because of the presence of Irish Mias.
Let's move to the main track at Gulfstream for the Mucho Macho Man Stakes. We'll take a look at the field right now. Some of these 3-year-olds taking the smallest of baby steps, perhaps, on the road to bigger and better. 3-year-old Kentucky Derby preps later at the Gulfstream meet. The number 2, Chance It, 9-5 on the morning line, ran some very fast races as an early 2-year-old. Not a lot has gone right for this horse since his most recent win. He got sick. He had quarantine issues that prevented him from shipping to Remington for the Springboard Mile, and he catches a field with a lot of speed.
Yeah, he really does. He's come from slightly off the pace, but with an inside draw, it's hard to imagine him not. And coming back for the first race in September, he's been working fast. You have to think that he's pretty sharp. Yeah, and he's fine. I mean, he's made the most of that rich Florida Stallion series, but I mean, he's running nothing but you know, restricted races, Florida bred races, and not to demean, you know, those horses. We've seen good horses come out of that series, and there are plenty of solid Florida breds. But at a short price, You mentioned the layoff. He was supposed to run another spot. It didn't work out. And then the quarantine to Remington. So he's coming back from the layoff. The speed issues, I do think they're going to be going really fast. It's hard for me to imagine that even if there's a little bit of taking back, there's not at least a solid tempo. And I think he's facing the deepest field that he's ever met. And I just don't. I mean, sure, he can make me look stupid, but I'm not a believer in him at the price in any way. It also, his mere presence and the expected odds made me interested in this race alone. And then, it's just a question of finding the alternative.
So he's stepping up in class and facing other speeds. A horse dropping in class and a horse that would benefit from a fast pace up front is your top selection in here, the number 1 South Bend. We're going to go back to one of his wins at Keeneland where he came from way out of it. I thought last time out there was just no pace over that wet track. A, I think he didn't like the wet track. B, I thought he was too close to that slow pace. They're going to take him back and make one run a la this race, right, Marcus?
That's the assumption. And I don't, like you, Dan, I don't know what to make of it exactly. Well, I mean, you seem to know a little bit what to make of it. And that may be it. Maybe he doesn't like mud at all. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what went wrong. To me, he didn't run his race. And yeah, maybe he is not a horse that's comfortable being forward. Maybe he wants cover and wants to make a run. Now, we saw the race at Keeneland, which was fine. And I thought I was impressed with him that day. I really don't like closing debut winners. They just tend to disappoint second time out, stepping up in class and trying to do the same thing. And he's the rare horse who was able to make that jump. Probably another horse who's a little bit better than his number. And then his third race was the one that really made me think that he's okay because A, he was jumping up in class. B, he showed a lot more tactical pace. And C, he was stuck down at the rail almost the entire time. He had a very demanding trip for a young horse, having to be inside, be in behind horses, hold his position, wait, then split horses and finish out. And I thought he finished, it wasn't like a breathtaking move, but I thought it was a very above average move for a horse his age, in October of the 2-year-old season. Cutting back to the 1-turn mile, I mean, I just can see him getting a dream set up here, and we already know he can handle being inside. I think that 9-2, his morning line, would be plenty fair for me to dive into the win pool here.
We'll move on over to Southern California for the Sham Stakes. We'll take a look at that field right now. 10 Kentucky Derby qualifying points to the winner of the 1-mile Sham, carded as race number 5. Bob Baffert has probably the 2 favorites in here. The 1 Authentic's the Fig Horse. The 4 Azul Coast is the Trip Horse.
So you're not going to waffle like the line maker and make 5-2 second choices, huh, Dan?
No, I think Tyshawn will be a solid third choice.
Really? I wouldn't be surprised if Tyshawn is second choice, but that's a mere quibble. And interestingly, when I first approached this race, I had the same feeling as with Chance It. I was interested in the race because Authentic won first out at 5.5 furlongs. Had the Fig, had the Baffert. It's going to be the short price, stretching out to a mile, a 2-turn mile. I thought there were some decent other horses in the race, and he's going to be an overbet favorite. But interestingly, or maybe stupidly or foolishly, I had the exact opposite response when I went back and watched this race again and then watched his subsequent workouts. I think this horse is immensely talented. I think the 5.5, just whatever. The race was there at the time. It's not that he ran that distance because he thinks that he's got distance limitations. And if you watch his race carefully, he really is just kind of chugging along without doing anything until it comes time to kick in a little bit. And then he's got this weird, interesting stride. I mean, it didn't like it at first, but then he accelerated the last eighth of a mile in a really kind of interesting way. He got, the farther he was going, the more comfortable he got and the better he looked, and his gallop out was even better. And then I saw more of that in his workouts. And he worked solo the times that I saw. He's into it enough and is professional enough. He doesn't even need company, which Baffert uses all the time. And he really, he worked great. And he works like a horse who's going to easily get a distance. And he looks relaxed, too. I know he's drawn on the rail coming out of a short sprint, but I wouldn't be unhappy if he were in behind horses. He's 8-5 on the line. I'm not going to play him if he's odds on. He's not that kind of horse to me, and I'm not that kind of better. But at 8-5, I would definitely participate because, I mean, we talked about Azul Coast. You talked about it briefly. He did run a tremendous race to win, like he did. But he's got no speed at all. He works with another workmate, and he's gotten outworked. Like, he has to be shoved along to even get anywhere. He's just not nearly as brilliant. I think he's going to want a lot more distance. Like, he's the kind of chug along horse that could be effective in the right mile in an eighth race, but going a mile against a brilliant horse like this, I don't think he's going to stand a chance.
And I think he represents one of those handicapping bugaboos that you've mentioned on previous Weekend Game Plan with Marcus Hersh editions. Here's the debut winner coming from far off the pace on a wet track. Now he's going to get overbet in a completely different situation.
Yeah, that's really true. And he looked good doing what he did. Granted, outside paths probably were better at Los Al that day especially. But even considering that, he was so wide. To me, like, the ground loss had to way more than being in the better part of the track. And I do think he's a talented horse. When Baffert debuts him in a mile, though, just usually, to me, it says that they're grinder, plotter types. They may be talented, but they're not the brilliant type like his stablemate. And who knows? These are young horses, Dan, as you know well, that are changing and developing. Like, it's such a short time span they've even been at the track. 2 weeks is a relatively long period of development, in their lifespan. So, without being around them every day and seeing everything, but we have the benefit these days of being able to watch some workouts, and just from watching the works, you can see with your own eyes that the one horse really seems to be super talented.
There you have it. 3 Weekend Game Plan selections by Marcus Hersh. To recap, in the Kitten's Joy Stakes at Gulfstream, Marcus likes the 9 Summer to Remember. In the Mucho Macho Man Stakes, also at Gulfstream, it's the 1 South Bend. And in the graded Sham Stakes at Santa Anita, it's the number 1 Authentic. Best of luck with your wagers.